Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 3rd regular Village Council meeting. Excuse me, this meeting is called to order. Judy, if you could call the roll.
Yes. Stokes.
I'm here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Hausch.
Here.
Gustafson. Here. We are expecting Carmen Brown at any moment. Also present is Paige Bird, who is sitting in for the village manager, Johnny Burns, who is taking a little time off. Also present is Michelle Robinson, finance director, Elise Jardulo, project lead, and Amy Blankenship, village solicitor.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for that and for everyone being here. Excuse me, do we have any announcements?
Sure.
Hey, you don't have to. Thanks to feel put upon.
Yeah, I actually don't, I enjoy it. Maybe others do as well. So I did want to mention, and I'm going to talk about, I had a conversation with the superintendent of the Educational Service Center, and there were a lot of accolades for Officer Kincaid, and really appreciate that relationship. Some of you may know that the Cascades groundbreaking happened last Wednesday, and Johnny mentioned that in the manager's report. Really great, very exciting. Potentially 32 more affordable homes for seniors and families. We did select a YSDC director. It's kind of breaking news. I got a notification a couple hours before this meeting. Her name is Amy Lowe, and she's going to come to our next meeting to introduce herself to all of us. Okay. Officially starting on September 23rd. We're just talking about the new YSDC director. Yep. And she's amazing. Just brief recap. We had 49 applicants. We selected 8 finalists for the board to review anonymously. They were all redacted, and we ultimately did 3 interviews, 3 amazing candidates, and I'm really excited, and I think we all will be to work with Amy, and we'll be seeing her regularly. It was a YS Home Inc. week. Besides the groundbreaking, the annual meeting happened on the following day, on Thursday. I think now for 3 years in a row, someone from the village has won the 50-50 draw. So this year it was Elise, and each of those times, yeah, Kevin did it, Johnny did it. We've always given back that other 50% to support the mission of Home Inc., which is wonderful. And several of us rode 38 miles on, give or take, we were all a little bit different, on Saturday for the Tour de Gem. I wanted to mention this because Kevin did the choose your own adventure version, so we lost Kevin for a while, but he eventually reconnected. Yep. So with I believe one shoe and one shoeless foot, biking at the
riding
end.
with cleats comes with its own hazards.
Yeah, so that was fun. I did want to mention, I'd referenced it at the last meeting, that we have the Regional Trails Committee coming to Yellow Springs. The official date is October 18th. That's going to be at Coactive. Anyone's welcome to join. It starts at 11:30. We're going to do a tour of the new multimodal trail on Dayton Street. There's going to be a presentation that Johnny and Chris Bongiorno are going to lead, and it's exciting to have them in town. It gives us a chance to tell our story and all the successes we've had around walking and biking infrastructure. And actually, I had a picture about celebrating our wins, but I'll show that next time. And then I did want to highlight that we were recertified for a 4th year as a wildlife habitat community. I was amazed to see we're one of 3 in the state of Ohio, and there are only 167 in the U.S. So this is pretty incredible. If I missed it, sorry, but great if we promote that on social media. Judy, if you can pass that along to Ben. And also wanted to give a shout out to Stony Creek, who to receive their agri-tourism permission. So they're going to be doing classes out there. This is, I think as everyone knows, one of our tenants who have done amazing things with that space. And the last thing I'll mention is that Mary Ann McQueen at that home meeting was awarded the Tony Benn Affordable Housing Advocate Award. They had to wait until after she was off council because they don't want to create any bias. But this reminded me, for those that don't know Tony Benn, he was on council for 26 years, council president for several of those years. And one of the things when I was looking at his obituary that resonated with me, he was a big affordable housing advocate in general. And he really highlighted that zoning is critical to make sure that you maintain your community's character. So, something to reflect on, and that's all I have.
Okay. As always, Brian, thank you very much. I'll reiterate to my council colleagues, maybe, was it 24 or 26 years Tony was on council?
26.
26?
Yeah.
That's probably the record,
I would
guess.
think.
So you all know what you're shooting for. I want to encourage you. All righty. Thanks again, Brian. Appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Now to the consent agenda. We have the minutes. First, I'll just go through them one at a time. The minutes from our August 19th, 2024 regular meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments, concerns, questions, additions, deletions?
We don't get to do that on a consent agenda, so...
So we're all in favor of
We don't do
approving
those.
that item, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty. I like this. We just saved ourselves 90 seconds. All righty. Thank you, Judy. You're so good to me. August 21st, the council team building session. Can I get a motion for that item?
So moved.
Second?
All right. Anybody opposed to that? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, moving on. And lastly, in the consent agenda, the August 26th council team building session. Can I get a motion to discuss that, please?
So moved. Second?
All right. All those in favor of passing the minutes from that council team building session, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we're moving on. Thank you very much. Now we're at the review of the agenda. This is where we take a look at the agenda as it is written and published.
Is that something we have to do? Do we need to do the...
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yes, thanks, really. Bartley, you are here. We've got you down, interestingly enough, I'm looking at a digital agenda and it's not there. No, say it is there. I skipped it. Don't take it personally. You know, I'm almost, but not perfect. That being the case, please forgive me for the oversight. So you could come on up, Bartley, and share the interesting news that you have for us, and we will discuss and ask questions as needed.
All right. My name is Bartley Davis. I am with Tech Advisors, the IT contractor for the village. And the Village of Yellow Springs has implemented a few changes to the website and to the email system. The state of Ohio and the FBI are strongly recommending that all municipalities and government agencies adopt a .gov address and domain. In accordance with this recommendation, the website and email systems have been updated to yso.com from yso.com to yellowsprings.gov. The reason for this is to give assurance to citizens that they are accessing the correct information from a reliable source. .gov addresses are only registered once a certain level of scrutiny has been satisfied. The website and email domain yso.com will now redirect to yellowsprings.gov, and all prior email aliases will still be delivered as they were before. The only change is that the outbound email addresses will reflect best practices with a yellowsprings.gov address. For example, Johnny's email address is now johnny.burns@yellowsprings.gov, which is his first name dot last name at yellowsprings.gov, and the same applies to all employees and council members. Again, all prior email addresses will still be delivered.
Okay. I don't know if you said this, Bartley, but I think you did. It was part of the messaging that the logins stay the same, so us receiving...
I cannot comment on security matters.
All right then. I appreciate that. You passed the test. Appreciate that. Yeah. Besides nosy me, anyone else have any questions for
Just
Bartley?
so .oh.us, that's just
It's
not-
still there, but it was really long. No one liked it.
Oh, I agree with that. So okay, but so that just but it was less secure or
No, it was really long and no one liked
gotcha.
it.
All right, cool. All right, sounds good.
All right, any other questions?
I won't ask any more geeky questions.
We can take it offline.
Indeed. All right. Thanks, Bartley.
Thanks, Barley.
All right. So, yes. Anybody have any issues? Thanks again, Gavin, for that. I don't know how I missed that, but that's important for us. I'm looking at you, and I'm wondering, to what degree are you concerned about? We probably shouldn't be concerned about business cards, because what's on them still works.
Those are actually all going to be updated in any case, because since we have technically new email addresses, Ben Gunther thought he'd take that opportunity to just make everything consistent. So that is something that is in the works in any case. Yeah.
Okay. And I think Ben did mention, or Johnny did, our signatures, or email signatures. And Brian, I think you alluded to that also, getting more helpful information in there for those. Okay. All righty. Well, we will leave this puppy alone then.
And information will be coming. This is all just a little bit in its inception, but
Got you.
But Judy, I mean, since you did mention it, so I mean, there's rebranding going on as well, so we won't do new business cards until that's completed, right?
right, correct. That's all
Okay.
of a piece, yes.
Yep, cool.
All righty. Well, that's all good news. All righty. Petitions and communications. Gavin, if you would, please.
Yeah, the clerk will receive and file the council clerk about the resolution 2024-52 renumbering. Bethany Gray, related to the habitat certification, the information that Brian referenced in the announcements. The Village Café report from round 2 on the affordable housing topic, and then Bartley Davis with changes to village domain name and email addresses that we just heard about.
Okay, great.
And if I can just make you all publicly aware of that little clerical error that I made. So there were 2 resolutions numbered the same. The second one has been renumbered so that there's no duplicate. That's all been taken care of, but it has to be publicly acknowledged that the resolution you passed is 2024-52 has a new number.
Duly noted. Thank you. I'm going to offer opportunities to discuss and ask questions if anybody has questions about that. All right, hearing none, we are moving on. Thanks, Judy.
I would have answered it.
I know you would have. I know you would have. All right, we are at public hearings and legislation. The chair will entertain a motion to read. There's no second readings, but read the emergency items as by title only. Can I get a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. So for the 2 emergency items, Judy, we will be reading those by title only, and I would ask you if you could, please.
Indeed,
read
I will.
Emergency reading of ordinance 2024-08 by title only.
This is authorizing the transfer of funds and declaring an emergency.
And can I get a motion for that?
Second.
All right, thank you, and I'm looking around the room for anyone who wants to stand up and talk about this. Welcome. Thank you.
I just have the memo from Johnny. We're transferring some $900,000 from the, sorry. Let me find. We're moving it to the electric capital fund. It's in order to cover some projects that are coming up. Johnny had attached the needs assessment project list. This is from the rec sale. It's a portion of it. And that's what the transfer is for the attached memo.
Alrighty. I understand that, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for the memo. I was reading the financials first and then was waiting for the memo, but it was further down or probably in the manager's report. So that was all good. Council, do we have any questions or comments regarding this change, movement of funds?
So I have a few. So one thing I asked Michelle before the meeting was what's currently in the electric capital fund. I wasn't sure if that was the same as what we have in the supplemental in the packet.
The ending balance as of right now, we have $371,000.
Okay. And kind of a related question, does this transfer need to be reflected in that? Or that'll be reflected later?
Need to be reflected in.
The adjustment that we're making to?
Once it's approved, it'll be reflected.
Gotcha. Okay, so it was interesting to me. I appreciated that Gavin asked for more information. And I think, Judy, was it in the online packet, the additional, like what we had voted on for policy in the past? Is that, or not yet? Okay, but council received it. So two things that I noted in that. One is that rec sales are supposed to be an 85 to 15 split for infrastructure improvements and future renewable activities. The second thing is that we're supposed to annually review that policy. And Judy, that reminded me, we've talked about like developing a calendar. I think we should start tracking, because every once in a while we have these policies that are supposed to be reviewed annually. I think probably there's something about the what we've done with affordable housing, with the transit guest lodging. There's another one that came up. A few just came to mind, but it'd be good to have those on our radar. So that's just a side note, but we probably need to do an official annual review. The whole point here is, I guess I'd like to recommend that we instead transfer that 85%, and then potentially, and we haven't talked about this, Michelle, I just noticed it today, but whether there should be another fund for the renewable energy piece. We don't have to get into that tonight.
Okay.
But 85% is very close to the 900,000. I mean, it's like off by, when I did the calculation, like maybe $8,000 or whatever. But it seems like if we've already got money in the capital fund and we could transfer more if we needed to, that we should keep to, I think, the reason why we wanted to have that split, that we're thinking about current infrastructure and ways that we can support renewable energy in the future.
Yeah.
So,
Believe it or not, I anticipated that question. And I didn't look at the actual language in the policy, but it's something like, it's more of a may than a shall on that split, and where enterprise, I'm paraphrasing, where enterprise needs dictate, a larger percentage than that 85-15, where the larger percentage is not required by the enterprise fund, then that 85-15 split would happen. So there was an intention to have language in there to say if it's the right thing to do under the circumstances, sort of thing. I didn't go back and review it, but I remember when we were putting the policy together that was...
and you are correct. So the policy says if we need more than 85%, then we can pull that out. So I guess what I'm suggesting is if we've already got enough to cover, with transferring 85% plus what's in there, that we start at that point, and then if we need to pull out of that 15% at a later date, we can. But yeah, you're right. There is that caveat, and I recognize that as well. It just doesn't seem like we're that tight yet. But, we also don't have Johnny here, but we could revisit it if we're missing something.
Well, I'm going to channel Johnny now and say that I hear what you're saying, and I'd like for us to move on with the proposal as is in terms of the dollar amount, because in Johnny's parlance, it just so happened that we need about $900,000 to take care of the RDNs, the things that were just happened to be highlighted by the. And I think, Michelle, you mentioned, or someone mentioned the folks who came in and did that study and broke it down. So the things that are like immediate, it comes right around that dollar figure. So again, I would just say, I think this might be the first time we've gone through this after the policy has been completed. That I'd like to do as much as we can in terms of what, to meet the need as much as possible, if you will. Any other concerns, comments from, I'm not shutting you down, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone else
I'm still going to make a motion.
Yeah. I'm saying, anyone else want to weigh in?
So these numbers are still good? Even the quote is from March. It has a 15-day. Price quote is good for 15 days. So we're guaranteed that these numbers are accurate.
I presume all numbers presented are accurate still, yeah.
Okay. The other thing, I just wanted to make sure that we would put something out on social media to remind residents when this happens. And one thing is, it talked about the smell. I think that preemptively letting them know when this is happening, when they're doing the pipes, that we put something out on social media.
Oh, we're not talking about relining.
The sanitary sewer.
We're talking about electric fund.
Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm on the next one. Yep.
Good point, though.
Yeah, sorry.
Just, you don't mind holding on to it. Go ahead, Gavin.
Is it an emergency because we're trying to get the project going that you just referenced? Do we know? Is that why this is an emergency?
I would believe so, yeah.
Okay. I'll just, I was just interested. I remember we had done this, and I would echo Brian's comments. That's why I'd asked about the, the piece. I don't know. I guess it doesn't read to. Where are you getting the shall from, Brian? Like
That was me paraphrasing.
Well, then he said he agreed with you.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where were y'all?
Well, no, I agreed with the caveat. I think the policy's pretty clear on 85 to 15 split, unless we have a crisis with our infrastructure.
Right.
So
I'm generally fine with it. I just, we had just done this a year or so ago. It seemed like we had talked about it 85-15. There was no reference to the 15 in the in the documents. It just would have been interested to know. My guess is that, if I can take a stab at channeling Johnny, he would probably say that something in that money counts toward the 15, is my guess. But it would have been nice to have just said, hey, here's what we're trying to reflect. And what was the other point I was going to make? Anyway, I don't feel super strongly about it. It was just keeping up with what we had passed.
Okay, well, I will say, ultimately, what we do have in the packet is that it's $827,500 that we need. $900,000 is a, round number, but these are all improvements to the infrastructure, which are awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they are, as, right darn now things. So I guess, my point again is that we've got 380 in there already. Transferring 85% of 963,000 or whatever it is 808 or something. So that's 1.2 million to cover this. And then if we're missing something, we can always come back. So I am going to make a motion that we change the amount to 85% of the 963 and change to cover the 827,000 that we need. So.
So can I just ask, does anyone see any reason why this would be a problem?
Which thing would be a problem?
What Brian's saying, like, it seems like all the money's there to cover the things that are being asked for, but obviously, maybe y'all don't know the answer.
Well, I don't know if that 300 some odd is, or to what degree that 300 some odd thousand is earmarked for other things.
That's true.
Do you have any idea?
No, I'd have to check on that.
I will say that the funds right now are restricted. They're in the electric fund. So my assumption is he would not ask for the transfer into the capital further restricted fund if he did not need those funds there, because they're already in the electric fund. They're not floating in the general fund. They're in his, basically, the electric fund for electric infrastructure use. So that'd be my only comment on that is, I don't think he'd be asking unless he absolutely needed them in that further restricted account.
But we could transfer another 20,000 if we needed to, at our next meeting. I mean, these projects aren't starting tomorrow.
Would you need then another supplemental as well as another
I
transfer?
believe so.
I believe there's a motion on the table.
Brian, do you have that full number, that 963 number?
Yeah, it is, 963, and then it's like 549. 963, 549, and 49 cents.
And the motion's for 80% of that?
85.
85, yeah.
Okay, so that's 819,000.
Right, so it's just shy. So again, like, this is more of like a principle of following our policy thing than,
Well,
it's not significant in terms of like, that's 9,000 difference, yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, we are following the policy by moving the whole 900 over. I mean, the policy allows for, monies to be moved over and from the proceeds to be split. I'm going to, again, paraphrase and say, when appropriate. And I don't.
That's just not what it says. Is the thing.
Well, I understand, but there is, the intent was to put language in there to say, if it's a good day for doing the split, we'll do the split. If not, so I'm going to pause here.
Well, I do want to, just one more thing I'll remind us is that we know there's going to be an ask for a match for EV chargers, which is one of the things that 15% is supposed to cover. So, I mean, we have, solar and other projects that are being talked about. So I just don't want us to forget about that's part of our commitment to selling RECs.
Acknowledge. Again, am I correct? There is a motion?
Yep, I made a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'm fine with not doing it. I think it's obvious that, like, it'd be nice to just have everything all tightened up, and I understand Brian's point, but I'm fine without seconding.
I've heard the motion and not hearing a second. The motion has failed.
I'll go back to the second. Can I interject something too? The transfer is from
The REC sale.
which account to the electric capital fund?
It's from the electric fund to the electric capital fund.
To the electric capital fund. Okay. Now, in 20, and maybe I have the wrong document because I'm struggling to pull up what she has on her. But where in the ordinance does it say that?
Say which part? Is that in the?
Which fund we're pulling from?
Oh, okay.
Which fund we're moving to?
Well, go Michelle, because I grilled her on this last week because it is a little hard to understand.
It's saying that it's electric fund transfers, and this says electric improvement fund, and then in parentheses it says electric capital fund.
Correct. So what it's saying is, the transfer out of the electric fund is $900,000, and it is being placed in, or is being requested to be placed into the electric improvement fund, which is the capital fund within the electric fund.
I can see why it would be confusing.
I might suggest if we could.
Come on, Amy, Amy?
Yeah, sorry. Can we put something in section 2 that says the finance director is authorized to transfer the funds as they are certified and available from the, let's make sure we get that part right, if that's all right, just to stick, just so it's crystal clear on the face of the ordinance, which fund we pulled it from and which fund we moved it to.
It is coming from electric operating to electric capital improvement.
Okay, so if somebody on council could make a motion to amend section 2 of the ordinance to include that language, to move it from the electric operating fund to the electric capital improvement fund, right?
Yes.
I make a motion that we move it from the electric capital.
To just put that language in?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
That revision.
There you go.
Yeah, what she
I'll
said.
second.
Okay.
Was there a motion and second on the revision?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, all in favor of that revision?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed to the revision? All right, hearing none. The revision has been implemented, if you will. Now regarding the ordinance. Judy, if we could do a voice vote.
All right. DeVore Leonard.
Yes?
Hausch.
No.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks all for your participation in all of that. Yep.
Before we move on for that, Judy, would you be okay with putting together a list of these annual things? Is there any reason not to do that?
No, there's no reason not to do that. They're just probably buried weird places, so yeah.
I don't even know that we need to go, I mean, obviously, if we think of one, but maybe we
Right.
could send around a list and then...
Well, I think they just pop up, so if we just add them.
One of the things that I want to add is that we will be in doing strategic planning soon. And so, yes, we need to all be thinking about this. And yes, we need to all be keeping in mind that Elise is here for a reason, and I think that's a part of it. So, is that like reasonable?
Right, yeah, so that's an
these will be things that'll be, I mean, if everything goes according to plan, these will be things that'll be taken care of in strategic planning. So yes, we need to think about that, and then also this will be a part of the business that we take care of when we start to get into our strategic planning stuff.
Well, I think the things that'll be outside of that are like, I think the surveillance policy has like an annual review that we always forget about. I mean,
Well, and we won't if we,
it's not really, the
I mean, I don't
policies
wanna-
aren't gonna, we're not gonna dig
I mean,
into
it could be
every, like-
it could be like a semantics thing, but I just want everyone to keep on the front of their mind that, and that we're going to have the opportunity really soon to take care of most of this stuff. Just to get it out there.
So Judy, you've got that item to, start tracking these either annual or otherwise regularity of updates, check-ins, et cetera.
Yeah, it's kind of like pulling fleas off your dog, but yes, I'll be keeping a jar of fleas.
What I would just suggest, don't do extra work, just when they pop
Yes, that's what I'm
up,
saying.
oh yeah, we're supposed to review this one every, and similarly, we oftentimes need to be reminded about approving the quarterly financials. I mean, just a few, it's basic, but when they come up,
Yes.
put them on a calendar, we'll remember next time.
Yep. And most of that's certainly financial stuff, I think, tends to show up whenever it needs to. But we are all in excited agreement about that. All righty. Judy, if you could, please. Read by title only, Emergency Ordinance 2024-09.
And I'm just going to correct the title on that thing as I read it. This is the 2024 third quarter supplemental appropriations and declaring an emergency, Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio.
All righty. That's way nice. Michelle, is that you? Thank you.
And can we get a motion?
Oh, we should get a motion. I'm sorry.
So moved. Second.
Ooh, look at that. Folks are excited. I love it. Now we may discuss.
All right, so the supplemental is listed. I have the worksheet attached. We're looking at $76,500 for the general fund. That's to cover additional expenses due to the volume of the construction permit projects that have been going on. Then we have 204 Parks and Rec Fund, $5,922.25. Sam has received revenue from the Eclipse t-shirt sales. After we paid those invoices, this was the money that was left over and was put into Parks and Rec. And then we also have that's going to go into operating supplies. And then we have donations from the street fair parking in the summer, and First Baptist made a donation of $1,000. So she wants $28.43 to go to her special events for the fall and winter. Then utility roundup, it's a negative $36.80. It was over appropriated, and so we need to make that correction at the county. Then we have sewer capital improvement, negative $140,000. That was a double appropriation done back in February of 2024. That was during the transition time when Amy was leaving, and so there was some miscommunication on that part. Then we have the Fund 305 Electric Capital Improvement Fund for $400,000. That's a portion of the transfer sale of rec to capital. Then we have 601 Electric Operating Fund for $8,400. It's to replace a transformer that was sold to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds paid us back for that, so Ben just would like to have that money back in there. And then 610 Water Operating for $33,000. The reason for that is the meter multiplier was updated, and when the money was budgeted at the beginning of the year, they didn't take that into consideration.
All righty. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Questions?
So,
Yep.
how did you catch the 140,000 one? I mean, that's the most notable one here, right? Like, how did that?
When we have to do the certification of our estimated resources to the county, it was caught by Melissa Dodd and I when we were working on that.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Further questions? All right. Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I will ask Judy if you do a voice vote, please.
With the roll call? Yes,
Roll call.
indeed I
Thank
will. Gustafson.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Hausch.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes?
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All righty. First reading of ordinance number 2024-10. If you could, Judy, read that by title only.
This is repealing and replacing Section 1040.13 Utility Roundup Program of the Codified Ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio, to allow for the Roundup program to function as an opt-out program and declaring an emergency.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All righty. Thank you very much. Amy, I'm looking at you.
This is cheap.
Yeah, you.
All right. Hello again. Yes, so we are amending the utility roundup policy again, even though we just did within recent memory, maybe 6 months ago or so, because, and Michelle can probably speak more to this, and Elise than I can, but there were concerns about more money. My understanding is more money going out than was coming in, and in an effort to correct that and be able to serve as many people as possible with the program, these recommendations, the recommendations that are in front of you were what Johnny had proposed to try and sort of curtail that issue, changing it from 6 months to 12 months, changing the amount, things like that. So, one of the other significant changes is that village employees will no longer be able to participate in the program. That was taken out because there is some concern there. I don't know that it's necessarily a huge legal concern. We did the research on it. It's sort of a gray area, so of course the safest path forward is to make that change to the policy as well.
Okay, great.
Happy to entertain any questions, but if you start talking numbers, I'm going to kick you over with them.
I just have a question on language in section 3. Should it say something, so they can agree to go on a payment plan, but should it say something about completing the payment plan? In the first sentence.
Failure to adhere to the plan.
Adherence is,
I think we're probably covered with that adherence requirement. That's a good point. Agree to go on a payment plan for up to 6 months and adhere to that plan. I think that covers it. If somebody doesn't adhere to the payment plan, would they be considered ineligible then after that, based on that language?
And then, so what happens if they don't pay that? What is happening? Are we just shutting them off completely?
Do either of you know the answer to that question? I apologize, I do not procedurally know
Okay.
what happens at that point in Johnny's absence.
Okay.
Well, they're not, shut-off isn't connected to adherence to the payment plan. Shut-off is connected to payment of your bill. There are various ways to get that bill paid, so I wouldn't connect those two directly. I see what the point that you're making, but those are two sort of separate things as far as this is concerned. Adhere to this or you're not eligible. Pay your bill or you will in fact get shut off. Those are related, but not exactly the same.
so I'd like to see a change made. First of all, I'm going to start with saying that since Yellow Springs has a private utility and not a public utility, we're not in PUCO, which is the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. So if we were in PUCO, then people who have electric services through the village would be able to go to CAP, Community Action Partnership. They'd be able to go to Greene County Job and Family Services. They'd be able to go to some churches. They'd be able to get funding and resources that way. But because we are a private utility, people don't have that as an option.
I did not realize that.
Right.
I thought we were,
We are considered a public utility.
but we were referring people to things like CAP.
Right, for gas, probably. And I'm only saying this because I'm
Okay, I got you.
It's part of my
Gas
lived
and
experience. Saying all this to say, so this is an important program that we have in the village. Yeah, okay, we're reducing it instead of, twice a year, once a year, $200 once a year is not enough. Since we're reducing it by that much and people can only make an ask once a year, I'm proposing that it's $400 once in that 12-month period.
So going ahead and changing, let me see here, subsection C, leaving C4 as the change to 12 months.
Right.
But changing C5, or leaving C5 at $400.
Instead of reducing it to $200. And then another thing that I would like to work on with someone is, seeing the application process similar to a CAP application, requiring more income information from people that are asking. Because, these other programs have, very specific requirements that we don't have.
Speaking in his absence, I will say that I think Johnny would wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
Okay.
To make that, don't you think, make the application process a little more robust?
Right.
I think he'd be open to that.
Okay. And then instead of 200, 400 for the 12 months.
So then if you want to make is that the only change you wanted to make the ordinance, is taking
yeah.
the two, leaving the, so then if you want to just make a motion to tweak that, section C5?
Section C5. I would like to make a motion to tweak Section C5, a maximum award of $400 per request, which is, in a 12-month period, as opposed to just 200.
And would you be leaving the language of changing customer to household?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so there's a motion for modification.
I'll second. Or, Gavin.
Okay, all in favor of that?
Wait, can I just ask
Oh, I'm
one
sorry,
quick
you
question
did.
before we vote on it?
Discuss it.
Just, I'm assuming that the math works, because it would have been a significant change, like having it twice. So basically, we're saying have it once, and that we think the math will still work, that there'll be enough money in the fund?
So I just did quick numbers. Last council meeting, I said that we had around $1120 in revenue each month. So if you take that for a full year, that's $13,440 coming in. And we had 27 applicants so far this year. And so if they ask for the $400 annually, that would be about $10,800. So we would still have a little bit of a buffer there for more applicants. But since they're going from twice a year to once a year, it may not be more than 27. I wouldn't know for sure.
Did I understand that there was a significant anonymous donation made to the utility roundup program? Mm-hmm. And so,
Well, they came in and paid some, I believe some accounts that were.
okay, so it wasn't specifically to Europe, it was
No, it
for
was not.
specific accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. They came in, they do it usually at Christmas time, they'll ask if any are within disconnect,
Okay.
and they'll pay those bills.
Okay.
But I think it's also notable that, part of the policy and procedure is that we don't have to just rely on, the people that are opted in, and that, people can donate to the utility roundup. So that's another way we make the numbers work.
Yes, and we all should be contributing, in my opinion. I'll do that. So, so we're voting on the edit.
Yep.
All right, all in favor of approving those edits, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none. The motion for the modifications in section C, as indicated by prior discussion, have been approved. Any other discussion on the overall ordinance?
So I did want to ask Amy Blankenship, related to what I just referenced about the donations, and, in our policy and procedure doc, it's clear that anyone can donate. So does that mean that any fund we have set up, people can donate to it? Or
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'd want to, Michelle may know, but I'd want to look into that before I'd speak from the hip on that.
Because I guess it's odd to me that we would have set up this fund exclusively to take outside donations, and, for example, affordable housing, we wouldn't, because that's come up in the past. So I think it's important for us to understand and make that clear to citizens what they can and can't donate to, because we did have that issue.
We could specifically look into the Affordable Housing Fund and
Yep.
see about donations to that. I mean, this fund was created by council ordinance.
Right.
And the ordinance that created it allowed for those donations to be made. So where the Affordable Housing Fund is concerned, I just don't know. I'd have to look at the documentation.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that I just would surprise me that we think to do that for this fund and not for affordable housing or, or green space for that matter. So I would like that to be looked into and discussed, because I'm still not clear on it, so.
Okay.
I agree. I think it is good to have an answer, and to your point, Amy, to differentiate about how the funds were established and how that dictates how they are funded, if you will.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. All right, so any other comments or questions on the ordinance? All right, Judy, if you could do a roll call, please.
Yes, Brown.
Yes.
Willard.
Yes?
Gustafson.
Yes.
Couch.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
and thank you. Excuse me. Now we are at Resolution 2024-58. Judy, if you could read that by title only.
This is authorizing the village manager to submit a purchase order to Insight Pipe Contracting LLC and HGAC by contractor for the relining of select sanitary sewer lines situated in the village of Yellow Springs.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Now, Tricia.
Yeah, here we are. I was reading ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You got questions. Is someone else introducing this? Chief?
I have no additional information to add other than what's in the packet.
All righty. Duly noted. All right,
So the
Trish,
numbers,
you
we're
have
going to
the
go,
floor.
we're going to say that the numbers are accurate. Okay. Just the social media aspect, just to make sure that we're informing residents. I think that's important.
Okay. Judy, if you could take a note.
And now we've also got
Thank Johnny.
Civic Plus too.
Yeah, we did.
I'm sorry, what was that, Brian?
I said Civic Plus too.
Yeah.
Make sure if you've not signed up.
Trish, does Civic Plus count as social media?
Oh, I think it's a way to communicate, but not everyone's on it. I think a lot of people still use Facebook instead, so.
Yeah.
I think that outreach has been robust
Yes.
regarding social media, so I have no doubt whatsoever. You will soon hear a lot about sewer relining.
Well, it's better to be in the know so that your nose doesn't get what? Stop.
Well, you will feel no effect from sewer relining. Trust me, they don't like take things out and put them back. It's just an internal process.
Lord have mercy. That made me that tickled me. It really did. I don't know what's going on up here. All right. So, any other comments or questions or concerns about the resolution? Okay, we got the notes taken. I won't call you fake Johnny.
That's all right.
Johnny is fake chief.
Touche.
So the notes are all taken in terms of the modifications that have been discussed. Any other questions, concerns, comments? All right, all in favor of passing this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. We are now to resolution, the reading of resolution 2024-59. Judy, if you do that by title only.
This is authorizing electric crew participation in Light Up Navajo Nation for 2025.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
All righty, we have a motion and a second. Paige, I feel like I need to look to you.
No, I think everyone knows this was a wonderful project, the first year that we did it. I have to say, I'm proud of the work we do in the police department every day and in the village every day, but I was exponentially proud of this particular initiative, and I think council can speak to that as well. So I know Johnny's team absolutely enjoyed it, and this looks like it's for a second year, so.
Yeah. Sure. And Brian, I thought maybe you had did you have a question about this?
Well, maybe I just want to highlight, so the resolution that was in the packet has been slightly modified to really underscore not only is this an amazing project to be involved in, but our crew gets additional training, works with new folks, understands how to address like emergency situations better, and is creating those connections with other communities that are really vital to building our team. So, it's an amazing charitable effort, but it's also something that really improves our village team.
Agreed. And for the good of the cause one thing that Brian was alluding to was, I think a good idea, it is a good idea, to when we have resolutions and ordinances and whatnot, it's a good idea, and this will someday tie perhaps to our strategic planning and what we establish as our goals, but one of our whereases, if you would, should be, excuse me, some indication of the good, the rationale, the motivation for doing this. We try to do that all the time, but I think if we're more intentional about it, to Brian's point, we could really hone in on a strong rationale, and in the process, perhaps eliminate some questions. And as I suggested earlier, a little while ago, is once we have our strategic planning done, I would submit that a whereas in a resolution like this would be an opportunity to point to one or several of those strategic planning goals. Okay? That being said, are there any other questions? I think this is more than just housekeeping, right? We really need to do this. We talked about it last time, but we didn't really do anything official. We just said we'd bring the resolution.
Well, so it's under the memo. I mean, Johnny could have waved his hand and made this happen, but AMP, communities are really eager to participate, and they don't often get asked for a second go, and AMP wanted a clear indication that, in fact, there was support for the crew to come a second time because they have been invited to go a second time. So this provides that clear support.
Okay. All right. Well, not to belabor this point anymore, all in favor of passing this resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion has passed. Thank you all for that. While I get back to my agenda. All righty. Judy, Resolution 2024-60.
I actually provided an updated agenda which pulled that off because the funds that were being moved into the Parks and Rec were from revenue for that purpose, and from the T-shirt sales. They were receipted into that account, so you actually do not have to pass that resolution.
Good. Another savings of a few seconds. Man, I feel younger already. All right. That being the end of our public hearings and legislation, we're now to citizen concerns. That is the portion of the meeting where those of you who are present are allowed 3 minutes to come up and share any comments, concerns that you have about any item that is not already, any topic that is not already on the agenda. Are there any citizen concerns? Going once? Going twice? All right, we are moving on. Thank you very much for your attendance and your participation. Special reports, I am not seeing any. So we're moving on to our manager's report. Chief Johnny.
Fake Johnny up to the table. All right, so I wanted to make sure I highlighted a couple of things that Johnny made mention of. So first and foremost, groundbreaking event at Home Inc.'s Cascade Projects. Had a lot of show out for this. We had Village Council members Stokes and Hausch, as well as the mayor herself, myself, Sergeant Watson, and Officer Doug all participated just to show our continued engagement and support there through that project. Another notable item here is our Lawson Place. There's some improvements going on at Lawson Place. Those actually started today, if I'm not mistaken, with the first pour for some of the improvements to the sidewalk area that's going to be occurring. I know they're starting at 10, moving on to 12 after that. Additional notable items. Doggy swim last night, which means it's the official end of the pool season. Are you okay, Judy? Do we need to? No. Okay, she's not okay. Nobody asked her about it. Give her some space on the matter. And no, Porter did not go for a swim. I asked him. He said it was too chilly. I don't know, it was something weird. So,
it was chilly.
so they are completing the closure this week, I believe. Also completed this week the restriping, which included the curbs, parking spots, and the bump outs. That was a notable mention as well. outside of that, lots of information in there about the comings and goings, and I don't think there was anything else highlightable. Did I miss anything? Don't call you out there, Elise, but, okay.
All right, good on you. Did anyone else on council find anything they wanted to drill down on in the manager's report?
Actually, since we've got Chief here, I just wondered, what's the difference between a hump and a bump? Because I saw that was titled,
I'm going to need you to phrase the question more specifically.
in terms of our
in the
safety on the streets. Yes.
So I think the bump outs, which I just referenced in the restriping project, are obviously those bump outs that
Okay,
you
so
see.
bumps is short for
Yes.
bumped outs.
Right, exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
And then humps are the
Or what you
speed
see
bumps.
over on Fairfield Pike.
Okay,
Yeah, mhm.
cool. And then the second thing is, could you talk a little bit about what unfounded means? Like with some of the calls?
Oh, sure,
'Cause
yeah.
I imagine it doesn't mean that there wasn't noise. I mean, I imagine it means like a variety of things.
So essentially, unfounded is a disposition that officers will use when they arrive on the scene of a call and cannot determine what the complainant was essentially alleging. So it's not saying, hey, the complainant wasn't accurate or that wasn't occurring. It just means by the time the officer showed up, that was in fact not occurring and as such was unfounded.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
That's the way I feel when I wake up in the middle of the night.
Unfounded?
Unfounded. All righty. Any other questions of Chief Burge pretending to be Johnny for the manager's report? Kevin?
So, yeah, maybe. I don't know if, and this might just be like a follow-up with this question, but the budget development calendar was in the packet, and I guess I'm just wondering, so in the past, was it the first session that we would bring, like if council members have ideas, they'd bring them to the first session?
Judy, can you field that one?
Yeah, that's correct. So when I sent out the question to all you folks as to when you could meet for those 3 budget sessions, that would be, the first session would be when you bring those.
Okay. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right. All right. Nothing else before we move on to old business? All right, hearing none, we are closing out manager's report. Now we're at old business, and the first item we have is the LIHTC update from, it's got Amy's name on it.
This may be more of a Brian update than me. From the lawyer's perspective, we've been in touch, Bricker's been in touch with BAM. BAM has responded. They have the survey, they have the legal description, and their response was just some follow-up questions, which I understand. The attorney that spoke with them today was able to answer those questions, and BAM said they'd be back in touch. So now we wait on that front in terms of what happens with the entanglements,
Okay.
encumbrances, I should say.
Yeah, that's Will and Jada. That's entanglements. Yeah, rare form. Brian?
So yeah, so I mean, I'm happy for anybody that read my memo if there are questions, but I'm not going to focus on that because there was some new news that I discovered, or I was let known Friday evening after hours, so cannot incorporate it in here, and that's the priority thing I wanted to share. The schools found out that the Educational Service Center is also interested in this property. Again, since it was just sort of, we were just let known on Friday, there are still discussions that need to happen. So it's not clear exactly what that means. But I will say that in response to that, I did follow up with the superintendent of the ESC is Terry Graves Streeter, and we talked about what their needs are and why they're interested in this property, and also that they just weren't in the loop on discussions until recently. So that is something that I would suggest that we wait until the next meeting to really talk about further, because, you know, it's a new development. And then a related thing, and actually Rebecca and I had a conversation with another property owner. There are still some other things in play that I'd also like to talk about, but that meeting literally happened 2 hours before this meeting. So there, you know, needs to be follow-up discussion. I mean, I think obviously we can all conclude that you know, we'll need to think about what that means in terms of moving forward. But I think there are still some things in play. And I guess I'll remind folks in terms of timeline, it was at this point last year that, you know, the idea of putting something on the CBE came forward to us. And there was an understanding at that point that that was going to take time to unravel. So we still have time to figure things out, but you know, I want everyone to be aware that there's a new wrinkle that I think we'll know more about by our next meeting.
And if there's something else to know, it would be a result of the two superintendents or the ESC folks and the school board folks having conversations and hashing things out.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so nothing on our end in that regard. So we're in waiting mode in terms of finding out how that happens. And even though there are discussions about these other properties, we will find out if anyone's ready to get involved with those other properties.
And I think as we saw, well, not everyone saw, but one school board member, Amy Bailey, who had asked for the joint meeting, submitted this morning a draft agenda. So obviously there's still interest amongst school board members on the project. And there are also official discussions going on with the replacement for the soccer field. So things are still happening. And then I think in a couple weeks we'll know exactly what we should or shouldn't do next.
I'm not really sure how to receive the information about ESC. So that was on Friday, and it was just talks of it, or is there any action? Has there been any emails or any back and forth or not, or just ESC might be interested? Or ESC is interested, but we don't have anything.
Right.
We don't have anything solid.
They didn't have a plan or anything.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's still new.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I did learn is that they've got an early learning program that has 100 students. When Mavecca left the space, they expanded into, you know, that third of the building that Mavecca had. So they are growing. But yeah, it's very big at this point.
Okay.
So.
And is it does that impact this process, as in like they have like some sort of right of refusal or something, or how do these pieces of information interplay?
So what I understand is that there's a part of the ORC that says if you're a school that you have that right of refusal. The ESC does not fall into that. So we're essentially on equal footing. So, I mean, but there's not a right of refusal. So.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Knowing this, should we pause the process of seeking to unencumber the land through BAM if the village may end up not being the end purchaser?
My thought is that we have to wait on BAM's response anyway, but yeah, I think to me, an additional expenditure until we know more at the next meeting probably wouldn't make sense. So
Would or would not?
would not.
So let us hear back from BAM. And then whenever we do get a response from BAM, I think we can balance that with the status of the negotiations between the school board and ESC. And then most things will be clearer then. You have some hesitation? Amy?
I would anticipate the possibility that there could be legal work needed between now and the next council meeting to that end. If BAM is, since they responded today, if it continues to move forward, you, village, are paying those legal fees currently. So, I mean, we can pause that. We could put a stop to that for now, for the time being, until the next meeting when we have more information.
Well, what do you think? So, I mean, how quickly do you think they would respond? I mean, we don't know, right? So, I
But
guess
not discussing it now would almost guarantee that we'd hear back from them immediately, right?
Yeah, we'll never hear from them.
Right, it won't happen. Let's not worry about that.
The reality is, I look at this as there's a second option, because we've always said there are no guarantees that the LIHTC project will happen, right? It's all contingent. So the pursuit of the lien being unencumbered still needs to happen. So getting a response from BAM still makes sense.
It does still need to happen, but if the village is the end purchaser.
But that's what I'm saying, I would say if we hear back from BAM between now and the next meeting, we just wait till the next meeting to do that next step. So,
Yes, and that for me, the ESC thing puts a whole nother spin on this.
right.
So what are we, and what I mean by that is, so what if they say, you know what, we want it, and they throw their hat in the ring? Where does that leave us with regards to getting, the unencumbering of the property if there's another potential buyer, right? So we don't know, we don't have anything from ESC stating that they are definitely interested or not, but the prospect is there, right? And so I guess where does that leave us? Are we still on, are we on the hook?
Well, not if we pause any additional, if we do not incur, we can not incur any additional legal fees between now and the next meeting. That's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
And sounds like it might be advisable to do that at this point. I can't speak to how it works when schools sell land. I'm not a school attorney. You stated it exactly. I am familiar with what you're talking about in the revised code, but beyond that, I don't know what the process is or what that looks like.
Right.
And has the intergovernmental agreement been signed?
They weren't able to have a meeting on that, so that will happen on September 12th. Or they'll discuss it on September 12th at their regular meeting.
What about waiting until then? Until the agreement is signed?
Well, or we can wait until the next meeting.
Yeah, because our next
and
meeting will
reconvene
happen
on all of this.
Before after.
Yeah, it'll be the Monday after.
Right.
And you are looking to purchase land, the villages, for a public purpose, so we could go into exec session if need be prior to that meeting, if we needed to discuss it further.
And we're really just talking about 12 days, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
so it's,
Okay.
So
Right,
that would
it's
be
the
my
first
thing,
meeting
is
of the
just
month, so-
don't spend anything until we meet, the next time, but I still hope I'd love if BAM came back to us, before our next meeting, so.
So we're sort of at a pseudo pause, and what I mean by that is, I think depending on what BAM's response is, and depending on where school board and ESC conversations are, that might dictate something, but I think for the most part, we pause till we have a need to move forward. We all in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the exception of, we still want BAM to respond.
Yeah, it is, I will state, if not restate, I don't want any of our actions to contribute to a slowdown of the process.
Yep.
So the sooner we hear back from BAM, the better we'll know what is going on.
And just for the clarification, BAM is Build America Mutual, the bond insurer for the issuance on the school property.
Did I see something else written somewhere?
I don't know, I just felt like I heard somebody say, what's BAM? So
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
filling in the gap
Yeah,
there.
the little guy from the Flintstones. No, that's Bam Bam. I'm sorry.
Well, I think
I'm ready to go. Yeah.
What's going on?
Barrett, I think it's Barrett
Dad
Asset
jokes are
Management,
flying
right?
tonight.
Build America,
Okay.
Build America Mutual.
Which one are you saying?
At least that's what I've been told by the bond lawyers, Brian, and I take
Okay,
their
well.
word for it.
Okay.
Then I might have misstated.
Well,
yeah.
one thing for sure is Bam.
Yeah. They are the lien holder.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, okay, so sounds like that part is,
Yep.
okay. So, I guess I just want to, so Brian, you had raised some stuff in your memo of like, hey, we need to think about the appraisal and things, and you're saying we don't need to worry about that now because we have these other things
Correct.
we need to deal with. I guess I'll just say, like, this is a kind of a weird spot to be in, so I just want to say it out loud so the public, people know so I don't know if there's a way we can get to a different way of doing business than we get the memo. You're suggesting that we do things. We don't have any numbers, or it's a pretty limited amount of information. There's not staff engagement with the question, to my knowledge. So I'm just naming that so folks have a sense that this is all happening sort of in real time, and that I guess I'll say, Brian, I think, Carmen, I think the two of you were like the representatives or whatever when we talked about this previously. If there's anything that can be done to sort of increase the amount of information we have so we're not sort of on the spot needing to make decisions, that would be great. I don't expect that's a surprise to you, but just to say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, just in this particular case, finding out Friday at 6 p.m. during a long weekend, and then spending my day following up on this, which is what I did. I'm not sure we could have done any better.
No, the only information that is new and different is the information that Brian provided, and that was that Greene County Educational Center has some interest in the property. That's really all that's changed. Or that's all that, I think that's the newest thing to offer.
Right.
I mean,
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So let me, I guess, say it a different way.
Okay.
Yes, that's the new stuff, but there's a
Right.
bunch of stuff in here that was new and that we didn't know anything about until we got the memo, right? And that now we're saying we don't need to talk about right now.
Right.
So maybe a simpler way to put it is my 2 cents, I don't know what other people think, is it would be great to have some staff engagement on this question so that we have, and or Carmen in your case, like someone else other than Brian presenting us
until
information.
and the reason why there hasn't been any information provided, at least from me, until there's more movement, until we hear from BAM, until we meet with other parties, there really isn't, I don't want to say it's conjecture, but it's like, all these things are happening, but nothing can really happen until we get this information from BAM. So yes, there's a lot of information there, but, can we move on it or not? And as far as staff engagement is concerned, I don't even know who staff would be. Who would staff be?
Well, the team we deputized, if you would, is Johnny, you, Carmen, and Brian. And so I think the work of gathering information has been happening. It's just we sort of got blindsided by a new source of information. Doesn't change
Friday.
all the plans that have been going forward. So yeah, I would submit that we have mechanisms in place to provide this information. It never seems like enough timely information when things change. And I think that's where we are now. I have no idea I know what the words mean. I have no idea in terms of this project what it means for Greene County Educational Service Center to have expressed interest in the land,
Yeah,
and what their
we
relationship
can't know.
is with the current property owners, i.e. schools. And yeah, and they certainly have more at stake than a lot of us. I mean, this project would be sort of kind of close
Right.
to the high school. It's really close.
Yeah, and we
To ESC.
cannot know.
Yeah.
That's why we don't have any information we can't know.
Yep. So
So Gavin, is there anything besides the appraisals that seems new in this memo? Because I will share that,
Survey was a thing already.
yeah, because
Appraisal was a thing already.
Right, and yeah, the appraisal things come up, the core team, that was shared, and that was why I then put it in the memo, because I thought it might be a decision point tonight. I don't think we need to get into it tonight at this point, but if we're talking about numbers, I met with Allison Moody, I now know what appraisals cost. Johnny also sent me the appraisal, the last appraisal we did at the CBE. I got that over the weekend. So there are numbers. I just wasn't able to, I didn't have that information to put it in there. So in terms of that, the representatives for the LIHTC project are involved in that stuff.
Okay, that sounds good.
And Amy Blankenship too, knew about the appraisal thing, so we're processing that. But that to me seems like the only new thing that if I had had more numbers, I would have put them in there, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking and saying, in
You're right.
hopes that in the future that, or just that when we get to this point, that if we knew that information, we'd all have it in one place.
Yep.
So we weren't, talking about things without having considered them before. That makes sense.
Anything else on LIHTC before we move on to,
Are you going to talk about that joint meeting or pause on it?
well, that'll be the next,
Oh, okay.
Item,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
a sub, you got you.
yeah. So if we're done with LIHTC, we are moving to the joint meeting. So help me, Brian, we're not talking about joining them on the 12th. It's some other
20.
meeting at the end of the month.
Yeah, so now it looks like we're back to the 25th, and it seems like one school board member that had a conflict and now does not. So the school board's having a work session, inviting us. I mentioned that Amy Bailey sent that draft agenda, which Kevin and Carmen and I have seen, and Johnny, and that's something that, again, if we move forward with the joint meeting, I would think, we'd have a draft agenda in our packet, and we would discuss that. They'll be discussing it as well at their regular meeting on the 12th. And I think I mentioned it in my memo, there is this idea that there are other topics that could potentially be on that agenda. And I really think a facilities update and understanding how the village and the new school build and the renovation are working would be useful for all of us, because we're not involved in that, but our village team is.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I mean, I vaguely remember seeing some building plan and how that fits on the land, but I think so much has changed. I don't know that that's still
Yeah.
an accurate depiction. Feel free, yeah, come on up.
So Rebecca Potter and Judith Hempfling is out of town, so she asked me to come to this meeting in case you had any questions about the last issue and this one. But with regards to the facilities, what we discussed in our last work session was to also drill down on renewable energy and solar energy specifically. And Johnny's going to be at that meeting,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to kind of put it out there, that there are a lot of great issues to discuss with regards to the renovation and the new build. And if you have also from your end things that you want to know about it, but we did focus on how to collaborate with the village to investigate the possibility of establishing solar panels at the new build site.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I guess I'm in the geeky questions. Are you, with regard to solar panels, are you thinking, open air where real estate is involved, or rooftop?
What was presented to us at our last work session was all roof. Yeah.
Okay.
For, I think it was 750 kilowatts. So pretty big system.
Yeah.
But we're also well aware of in generating electricity, particularly in the summer months when schools might not be using as much energy because they're out of session. That could help the the village with peak times. As it was presented to us, HEPE engineering was great. There are a lot of factors. I think they've already talked to Johnny and gotten some details, but it would be a great conversation to have. Those systems are expensive. The whole thing is expensive. So we're going to be having to make choices, and you all could help us with that.
Yep, absolutely. Sounds like a good plan, a good area of information to discuss and consider. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Anyone else have anything for Rebecca while she's up? Okay, all right, thank you, Rebecca, appreciate that. All right, so that is the meat, if you will, of this potential meeting. We've got calendar issues, the agendas being formed, if you will, as we speak. So I don't have anything else concrete to share on that. Any other discussion points anyone want to bring up? Okay, all righty. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation in that discussion. We have no new business. We are now down to future agenda items. So, Judy, it looks like we've got rates and tax levies. Got the PUD discussion, and we are set for the TOT annual report then.
We'll add that meeting agenda and whether or not.
And then LIHTC, because that's what we do. We put LIHTC on every agenda. So let's do it.
That's it.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess two things that I think came up during this meeting.
Thank you, Riley.
I would like to do that annual review of the rec policy at our next meeting, just so we check that box. And I guess related to that, I will want to discuss, can we set up that separate fund for renewable energy improvements to, like, deal with that 85-15 split. And then, I don't know about the next agenda, but at some point, I would like to discuss how people donate to the village, so it's clear in our utility roundup. I think we want that with affordable housing and green space and other things, but I guess I'd just like to unravel that, because that's been way back when.
Amy,
Yeah.
you're good? Okay.
Already talked to Michelle about it, yep, we noted it.
Yeah, and I mean, way back when Lori Asklin was on council, she always talked about avenues for citizens to donate. And then the third item, when we first established the transient guest lodging, and I asked Michelle to give us an update on where we're at, because we haven't seen that in a while, and she's going to get that together probably for the next meeting. We would often year on year talk about what that $40,000 to $50,000 a year was going towards. We're improving some sidewalks here. We're, waiving tap fees there, whatever. And I think, and it reminds me, Jim Hammond, who was initially opposed, former owner of Mills Park Hotel, was adamantly opposed to the lodging tax. But when he passed it, he said, at a minimum, the village should justify why we need it. And so I would like us to start accounting, even though that's just in the general fund, that these funds really are going towards community improvement. And I think that's part of the reason why we can do things like support home inc projects. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle for citizens. So I'm suggesting that we start to explore accounting for that, what's about $50,000 a year now, and how we're investing it in our community. I think it's got some other benefits moving forward with just,
Right.
celebrating our wins.
So that sounds like that would be the second time I heard you say celebrating our wins.
Yeah, well, I'm invoking Johnny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
his
yeah.
language, so,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So the transient guest lodging fees, are you looking at that coming as a staff report?
Yeah, so Michelle said she would pull those numbers
Okay,
together.
okay.
I said it wasn't a priority. But then when I talked to Judy, in particular about this accounting for how that money is invested, I agreed with Judy when she suggested like that should be our discussion. And I think it really shows the community that we are creative in the ways we generate revenue to support great things in the village.
All right, so that'd be a new business item for the next agenda? All right, Judy, you got that? Oh, yeah. Okay. All righty. Anything else in terms of future agenda items? Anything else for the good of the order?
Wow.
Hearing nothing?
I was just saying, hour-and-a-half meeting, man.
Yeah, life is good. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.